The metallic thud echoed through the silent hall when Ibrahim Traoré slammed the briefcase onto the polished table. Everyone present froze. Inside it were the proofs that would shake the foundations of hidden colonial power. Photographs, documents, recordings, and above all, a list. 17 suitcases, 17 million, 17 names. The heart of the French ambassador, Jacques Dubois, nearly stopped. He wiped the sweat from his forehead with a silk handkerchief, trying to maintain his composure as Traoré opened the first suitcase. Stacks of European currency emerged, wrapped in sealed bands bearing the emblem of the Central Bank of France. "Is this what you call diplomacy?" Traoré asked, his voice laden with contempt. The clock struck 0:17 when the future of Burkina Faso was redefined. There, in the glass-walled VIP lounge of Ouagadougou's airport, under the silent watch of red beret soldiers, the tension was as thick as the humid air of the African dawn. The airport, usually asleep at this hour, pulsed like an organism on high alert. Corridors sealed off, armed soldiers at every entrance, armored vehicles blocking the French diplomatic plane, which waited in vain for clearance to take off. The security commander, Colonel Madou Kabore, stood firm beside Traoré, arms crossed, observing every move of the ambassador with eagle eyes. The justice minister, Aminata Traoré, flipped through the documents with surgical precision, while the airport director, Ousmane Diop, struggled to contain his astonishment at what he was witnessing. Ibrahim Traoré wasted no time with long speeches. "Open them all," he ordered, referring to the suitcases that had been intercepted. Each one contained more than mere objects. They were material symbols of decades of exploitation disguised as international cooperation. The second suitcase, opened by two soldiers, revealed gleaming gold bars, each engraved with Burkina Faso's seal, and dated from recent months. "Our gold," Traoré said, holding one of the bars, "extracted from our soil, paid for with the sweat of our people, and smuggled under the protection of diplomatic passports." Dubois attempted to argue, his voice trembling. "President Traoré, the Vienna Convention," but he was immediately silenced by Aminata's piercing glare. "The Vienna Convention also prohibits trafficking and espionage, Ambassador." Kabore then placed a series of photographs on the table, extracted from the airport security cameras. Images of 3 diplomatic vehicles arriving at 2247, uniformed men unloading the 17 suitcases and discreetly transporting them to the plane. Dubois calmly seated in the VIP lounge awaiting takeoff. Each record was time-stamped. The sequence of events was irrefutable. The third suitcase contained documents, falsified contracts, confidential reports, maps of unexplored mineral reserves, and geological studies not even released to the public. "Strategic information, sold and transported under diplomatic protection," Kabore said, pointing to the sheets stamped with official seals from the Ministry of Energy. The atmosphere grew even denser when the fourth suitcase was opened. Listening devices, micro cameras hidden in cufflinks and pens, drones disguised as birds, encrypted transmitters. Kabore lifted a small cylindrical object, examined it, and with a grim look announced, "NSA equipment, American technology used by the French to spy on Africans." Silence hung heavy until Traoré broke it. "Allies, yes, but never for our benefit." The fifth suitcase contained false identities, dozens of passports and documents with different names but photos of the same people. Ousmane Diop recognized one. He was here 3 weeks ago, presented himself as a human rights observer. Aminata picked up another document, and this one as a journalist, interviewed our minister a few days ago. The network was vast, woven with precision over years. Traoré stood and walked to the window, gazing at the plane parked on the tarmac, surrounded by soldiers. The engine still hummed, but its fate had already changed. "How many years have you been playing this game?" he asked, without looking at Dubois. "How many years sending spies, corrupting leaders, plundering our wealth?" Without waiting for a response, he ordered, "Open the next one." The sixth suitcase contained highly sensitive documents, military mobilization plans, personnel lists, weapon inventories, and strategic vulnerabilities. Kabore went pale. "These papers, they're only kept in the General Staff's safe." Traoré nodded but added with irony, "And we forgot the most efficient intelligence agent, Mariam." Everyone exchanged surprised glances. The cleaning lady who's worked there for 20 years. No one suspects her, but she sees and hears everything. As they opened the 7th suitcase, they found more money, this time in multiple currencies. Dollars, euros, pounds, yuan. Bribery funds, Aminata said, emotionless. The 8th suitcase contained luxurious gifts. Watches, jewelry, expensive electronics. Each item came with a card. To Minister Traoré, a keepsake. To Governor Zongrana's son, congratulations on your graduation. The contempt in Aminata's eyes was evident. They don't just buy our leaders, they buy their families too. In the 9th suitcase, Traoré dropped the papers to the floor upon seeing the contents. Dossiers on Traoré's personal life, photos, recordings, even medical exams. Traoré picked one up. My latest health checkup. Only my doctor and I had this. Traoré, examining another paper, widened his eyes. A transcript of our security meeting, word for word. The shock was collective. But we swept the room, Traoré exclaimed. Traoré took a deep breath. Maybe they didn't use technology. Maybe they used someone. The 10th suitcase contained scientific reports. Soil analyses, water maps, reports on natural resources. Years of research, now to be used by foreign companies as if they were their discoveries, Aminata commented bitterly. The 11th suitcase revealed propaganda materials, pamphlets, videos, posters. One featured a familiar face. Laurent Compaoré, Traoré read aloud. He died in the 2019 coup attempt. Traoré pointed to the image. Filmed in Paris. He's alive and ready to return. As they opened the 12th suitcase, they found vials of chemical substances. Traoré analyzed them and announced, his voice tight. Poisons. Induce heart attacks. Mimic strokes. Resemble food poisoning. Perfect weapons for traceless assassinations. Traoré approached Dubois. Who were you planning to kill with these, Ambassador? Dubois, pale as a corpse, stammered. I was just transporting the suitcases. I didn't know the contents. Traoré leaned closer, eyes fixed on his. You didn't know, but you carried each one personally. It's all on the cameras. And then, when the 13th suitcase was opened, the dread reached another level. Hard drives, USB sticks, CDs. The tech specialist, Abdul Lay, was summoned urgently. After minutes of analysis, he looked up, incredulous. Mr. President, these are copies of our entire digital infrastructure. Aminata didn't understand. What do you mean? Abdul explained. They have access to our banking systems, telecommunications, energy. They could paralyze the entire country if they wanted. Traoré crossed his arms, faced everyone, and declared, Today, they no longer attack us with guns and tanks, but with technology. Welcome to the new face of colonialism. The 14th suitcase was placed on the table with special care. When opened, it revealed meticulously drafted contracts, with long clauses and precise legal language. They were oil and gas exploration agreements. Aminata flipped through quickly and stopped, shocked. Here, 80% of all discovered oil goes to the French company. Burkina Faso gets only 20%. Traoré picked up another contract. A 50-year concession. They planned to exploit our wealth for half a century. But it was Traoré who delivered the final blow. Look at the signature. He pointed to the bottom of the page. There it was, perfect, unmistakable. Ibrahim Traoré's signature. It's fake, he declared without hesitation. A perfect forgery. The already saturated atmosphere plunged into sepulchral silence. Ambassador Dubois was breathing heavily, as if the rarefied air of the VIP lounge were suffocating him. Before he could attempt another excuse, the 15th suitcase was opened. Lists, hundreds of pages. Each sheet displayed names of Burkinabe citizens, teachers, journalists, activists, priests, artists. Ousmane Dio, with a perplexed expression, asked, What kind of list is this? Traoré flipped through a page, and with a heavy countenance answered, A target list. Aminata, horrified, added, Here, there are codes. K for shutdown, T for arrest, S for exile, and E for eliminate. Traoré, with a trembling voice, asked, How many with E? Aminata counted quickly. 47. Journalists, judges, opposition leaders, and... She stopped, in shock. Traoré took the sheet and saw. The first name was his. "And me," he completed coldly. The 16th suitcase contained high-resolution aerial images, ultra-detailed maps of every corner of the country. Traoré was impressed. "These are satellite images. They can even read vehicle license plates." Traoré scanned them quickly. "Our weapons depots, fuel tanks, ammunition warehouses, all identified." Aminata, almost breathless, murmured, "A ready-made invasion plan. All it needs is the order." Traoré clenched his fists. They were ready to attack us, or blackmail us. Then only the 17th suitcase remained. Traoré approached and placed his hand on the lid, taking a deep breath. The symbolic weight of that moment was immense. All eyes were on him. "This is the last one," he said solemnly. Upon opening the suitcase, they found a single thick file, bound in black leather, with golden letters on the cover. Operation Sankara. Secret. Traoré sat down, opened the file with steady hands, but his eyes betrayed the emotional weight. On the first page, the title, Objective: Elimination of Thomas Sankara and Installation of a pro-Western government. The date was unmistakable, October 15, 1987. The silence became absolute. No one dared even breathe. Traoré read aloud, "Participants: French Secret Service, DGSE, CIA Liaison Officer, Blaise Compaoré, and 12 Burkinabe officers." Traoré closed his eyes, recalling the bloody history that marked the country. The description continued. Method: armed attack during a palace meeting, execution of Sankara and 12 comrades. The final result was dry and cruel. Operation successful. Blaise Compaoré in power. French interests secured. Ousmane Dio pressed his lips, containing his outrage. Aminata, with teary eyes, stared fixedly at the attached photographs. Sankara's bullet-riddled body, blood pooling on the floor of the room where he fell for his homeland. But it didn't end there. Traoré turned a few more pages, and then froze, in shock. Operation Sankara, Phase 2. The date, 2023-2024. The target, Ibrahim Traoré. The objective, elimination of Traoré, Sankara's successor. The method: first, political pressure. If that fails, economic embargo. And as a last resort, physical elimination. Preparations: bribing 17 high-ranking Burkinabe officials. Preparing Laurent Compaoré as an alternative leader. Budget, 50 million euros. Approval, Paris. And finally, the definitive phrase, Operation Active. Traoré closed the file, leaned on the table with both fists, and stood there for a few seconds, bearing the weight of 36 years of history on his shoulders. 36 years later, the same methods, the same assassins, he said, with a pain he didn't try to hide. Ambassador Dubois stood abruptly. I didn't know, I swear. I just transported the suitcases." Traoré cut him off, his voice cold as steel. "Silence. Now is not the time to speak. It's time to act." He turned to Traoré. "Colonel, all 17 names on the list. Arrest them immediately. Search their homes and offices. Freeze their assets." "Yes, sir," the colonel replied, saluting. Traoré continued. "Aminata, convene an extraordinary session of Parliament for tomorrow. We will expose everything to the people." "Understood, President." Ousmane Dio, taking a deep breath, asked, "And the airport, sir?" Traoré replied without hesitation. "Closed. No flights in or out, all flights cancelled. As you command." Finally, Traoré turned to Dubois. "And you, Ambassador, you'll have one chance. Just one." Dubois, clinging to a vain hope, asked, "What?" Traoré approached slowly, looked into the terrified man's eyes, and declared, "You'll return to Paris, but not alone. You'll take copies of everything, every document, every photograph, every recording, and you'll deliver a message." Traoré walked to the window, gazing at the horizon where the first traces of light were breaking through the African night. "Tell them, Burkina Faso is no longer a colony. Our gold, our uranium, our oil, they're ours. You can no longer buy our dignity with blackmail, threats, or money." He took a deep breath before concluding. "You killed Thomas Sankara, but you couldn't kill his ideas. And tell Laurent Compaoré and his accomplices, let them come. We're ready. But this time, the outcome will be different. Dubois, speechless, merely nodded, defeated. A few hours later, at 6 a.m., Burkina Faso's national television interrupted its programming. Ibrahim Traoré appeared live, with the 17 suitcases lined up behind him, silent witnesses to a crime that would no longer remain hidden. With a firm and clear voice, Traoré began, "Citizens of Burkina Faso, tonight we witnessed one of the most significant episodes in our history." For 2 hours, he presented the contents of each suitcase: money, documents, weapons, poisons, contracts, maps. Nothing was concealed. And at the end, with a look blending pain and hope, he said, 17 suitcases, 17 million, 17 traitors, but we are 17 million Burkinabe, and now we are awake. The impact was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands took to the streets of Ouagadougou, waving flags, chanting, "Long live true independence, down with colonialism, Sankara lives." Meanwhile, in Paris, the French government convened an emergency meeting. The French president, furious, shouted, "This is unacceptable! We must intervene!" But the foreign minister, more cautious, reasoned, "Mr. President, the whole world is watching. The evidence is overwhelming. If we intervene, we'll lose not just Burkina Faso. We'll lose all of Africa." The defense minister, impatient, questioned, "So, what do we do?" "Nothing." An old diplomat with decades of experience replied, "We wait and hope other African countries don't do the same." But it was too late. In Bamako, Mali's capital, President Assimi Goïta summoned his cabinet. All contracts with French companies will be reviewed immediately. Rigorous inspections will begin at our airports. In Niamey, Niger's capital, thousands took to the streets, shouting, "We want our 17 suitcases too. Our uranium is ours." And the movement spread like wildfire, reaching Guinea, Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, an emergency session was called. The French representative defended himself, exasperated. "This is a violation of diplomatic immunity, an affront to international law." But when Burkina Faso's representative stood with the files in hand, the assembly fell silent. He spoke, his voice calm but cutting. "And what does international law say about the theft of resources from sovereign nations? About controlling leaders with blackmail? About the assassination of Thomas Sankara?" He then placed the files on the table. "Here is the evidence. Let everyone see. Let everyone know." The Chinese representative promptly declared, "We support Burkina Faso's right to sovereignty." The Russian representative added, "The era of colonialism is over. Those who don't accept it will be left behind in history." The U.S. representative remained silent. He couldn't openly support France, but didn't dare endorse Burkina Faso either. The world watched, stunned, as the old order began to crumble before everyone's eyes. That same night in Ouagadougou, bonfires lit up the squares, drums resounded like beating hearts, and songs of freedom spread through the city. An old man, tears streaming down his face, held a photograph of Thomas Sankara and said to the crowd, "We waited 36 years. Justice has finally been done." Beside him, a young woman spoke into a microphone with pride. "My father works in the mines, earns $2 a day, while the gold he extracts is worth 10,000. Now that will change." Student groups sang in unison. "Education will be free. Healthcare will be free, because our resources are ours." In the presidential palace, Ibrahim Traoré, though exhausted, gathered his cabinet. The defense minister asked, "And tomorrow, President?" "France won't stand still." Traoré, with a determined look, replied, "We're prepared. We have defense agreements with Mali and Niger. Russia and China have promised support. And most importantly, our people are with us." The economy minister pondered. "And economic sanctions?" Traoré smiled faintly. "We have gold. We have uranium. Soon we'll have oil. We can create our own currency, our own bank, establish a common market with the African Union." The interior minister added, "And the traitors?" Colonel Kabore replied, 17 are in custody. Investigations continue. They've already provided 50 new names. The network is larger than we imagined." Traoré, with resolve, concluded, "We'll clean it all up, but we'll judge them with justice. We are a state of law. We won't be like them." At midnight, when alone, Traoré stepped onto the palace balcony. From there, he saw Ouagadougou glowing under the lights of celebration. The sound of festivities still echoed. He took a small photograph from his pocket. Thomas Sankara. He looked at it for a long time and whispered, "We did it, Commander. It took a while, but we did it." The next morning, French newspapers blared headlines, Traoré, dictator, thief, terrorist. But no one believed them anymore. Images of the 17 suitcases had gone viral on social media. The hashtag died in 17 suitcases trended worldwide, a symbol of African resistance against neo-colonialism. In the European Parliament, the debate was heated. Progressive deputies criticized, "We're in the 21st century. Are we still practicing colonialism?" While conservatives tried to defend, "These are Africa's internal affairs." But the truth was undeniable. Pandora's box had been opened, and it would never close again. A week after the 17 suitcases incident, a French delegation, led by veteran diplomat Pierre Foucault, grandson of Jacques Foucault, the architect of French policies in Africa, arrived in Ouagadougou. Foucault, upon meeting Traoré, was direct. "We want to talk. We want to turn a new page." Traoré, firm, replied, "I accept, but on one condition. The talks will be broadcast live. My people will see everything." Foucault hesitated, but eventually agreed. When negotiations began, Traoré spoke first. "Before we talk about the future, we need to face the past. You assassinated Thomas Sankara. Will you admit it?" Foucault remained silent for long seconds before finally saying, "In the past, mistakes were made." Traoré, with a heavy voice, retorted, "Mistakes? Killing a leader is a mistake?" Foucault lowered his head. "Yes, France played a role in it. We regret it." The confession, broadcast live, reverberated worldwide, marking a historic moment. Traoré continued, "Now about the future. Burkina Faso is a sovereign country. Our resources are ours. Do you accept that?" Foucault replied, "Yes, we accept." Traoré went on, "All mining contracts are cancelled. New contracts will be made under fair terms. Do you accept?" Foucault tried to negotiate. "We can discuss," Traoré interrupted. "There's nothing to discuss. Do you accept or not?" After a tense call to Paris, Foucault returned. "We accept." Traoré then made the final demand. "French military bases will be closed. All soldiers will leave our country." Foucault's eyes widened. "This is unacceptable." Traoré stood. "Then there's no more talk." "Wait," Foucault shouted. He took a deep breath and resigned, said, "We accept." And so, after hours of intense negotiations, a historic agreement was signed. Burkina Faso achieved its true independence. But the story didn't end there. A month later, Laurent Compaoré, the man groomed by France to lead a coup, attempted to cross Burkina Faso's border with 200 mercenaries. The goal: overthrow Traoré and retake power. But Traoré was prepared. Burkinabe intelligence had intercepted the plans. At the border, an ambush was set. The confrontation was swift. The mercenaries surrendered. Laurent Compaoré was captured and, in court, confessed everything. France gave us money, weapons, promised support, but abandoned us. 6 months after the 17 suitcases episode, Burkina Faso's economy stunned the world. Gold export revenues were, for the first time, reaching the people. Schools were built in every village. Health centers opened in every neighborhood. Agricultural projects boosted job creation among the youth. The world watched, astonished, at the so-called Burkina Faso miracle. But Traoré always corrected, "It's not a miracle. We're just using our own resources, ourselves." The 17 suitcases were then taken to a specially created museum, the National Independence Museum. Daily, hundreds of visitors went there. Schools organized field trips for children to see the symbol of resistance up close. An old teacher explained, "Here, children, was the stolen future of our country, but our president reclaimed it." A little girl with curious eyes asked, "Teacher, is our gold really ours now?" The teacher smiled and replied, "Yes, my dear. Now, it's ours, forever." The girl smiled, with the purity of someone who instinctively knows she now has a future. A real future. A free future, opened by the 17 suitcases. And so, Burkina Faso never slept again. The 17 suitcases weren't just money and documents. They were the symbol of an awakening, of a resistance, of a victory. Years later, history books would write, "The 17 suitcases episode was the start of Africa's second independence movement. The first was political, the second, economic. And this time, it was real." Ibrahim Traoré went down in history as the man who opened the 17 suitcases. But he always said, "I only opened the suitcases. The real work was done by my people, who woke up, who rose up, who fought. The victory is theirs." And so Burkina Faso, once again, honored the meaning of its name. The land of upright people. 17 suitcases, 17 million, 17 traitors. But in the end, one truth: freedom. That night at the airport, it wasn't just suitcases that were opened. It was the eyes of a nation, and they never closed again. The final word belonged to that same little girl, now visiting the museum with her mother. She looked at the suitcases, held her mother's hand, and asked, "Mommy, is our gold really ours now?" Her mother smiled, tears in her eyes, and replied, "Yes, my daughter. Now it's ours, forever." And the girl smiled, because she knew that now she had a future, a true future, a free future, opened by 17 suitcases.